Hello and welcome back. In today's case, we travelled 2 hours and 20 minutes south of my hometown of Port Pirie to the suburb of Payneham in Adelaide. On April 12, 1999, 30-year-old Croatian immigrant Jakic walks alone along Payneham Road, roughly 5 kilometres northeast of the Adelaide Central Business District. She walks past a man working on his taxi. He's average looking, obese, with dark hair and a moustache. He smiles at her and calls out a greeting. Maya smiles back. The man asks if she wants a lift. Maya declines and continues to walk. The man climbs inside his taxi and drives off, but parks at a disused police station he knows Maya must pass. As she approaches, he drops his pants and exposes himself. He has done this many times before and has a fetish for the disgusted looks of horror on the faces of his victims. But this time, his target didn't look disgusted or horrified. Maya took one look at the man's shriveled genitalia and laughed. His needs had not been met, and as Maya turned to walk away, his hatred for women reached a boiling point. He attacked her from behind, his pants still around his ankles, and tackled her to the ground. Hidden in the bushes of the old disused station, his original intention was to rape her, but at the last minute he decided he wanted something more. He grabbed Maya's mouth to silence her, raped her, and then choked her to death with her own clothing. He would later claim he did it for the thrill. Leaving her body in the bushes, he gets back into his taxi and drives 50 metres down the road, stopping at a payphone. He calls 000, informing the police that someone is trying to break into the old police station. In a series of events that sound like an episode of Keystone Cops, the police search the area but fail to find anything. So he calls them again from a payphone near the old Royal Adelaide Hospital, this time telling them that he saw a body at the station. Again, the police failed to find the poorly hidden Maya. What makes this even more unbelievable is that while the old station was no longer used for general police work, it was being utilised by senior officers working on policy changes. For 5 days, officers walked past the body without noticing.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, there's someone hanging around the old Payneham police station. Seems to be trying to break in there.
Walked past the old Payneham police station. There seems to be a body of some sort in the bushes there, I'm not so sure.
Becoming frustrated with the police, and after Maya had denied him the pleasure of her disgust, the man wanted to see the horrified faces of the officers finding the body. On April 17th at 10:25 p.m, passers-by see a taxi with its hazard lights on near the Norwood police station. Only a few minutes later, officers from the station find a note under the windscreen wiper of a patrol car. The note read, "There's a dead girl's body in the shrubs of the grounds near the main road of the Payneham police station. This is no joke. Take a good look." 2 fresh out of the academy constables finally discovered the remains of Jakic. On May 13th, police made the decision to release a recording of the first phone call made to the police and the note found on the police car at Norwood. This was done with the hopes the person who made the call would come forward or someone from the public would identify them. They didn't know if the person they were searching for was the killer, but they understood that he knew something they didn't. On May 29th, the police released the recording of the second call. Still, no good leads came in. On June 11th, a special 1-800 number was set up for the public to call. The number played both the phone call recordings on a loop. The police were searching high and low for information on the caller, who they believed to be a taxi driver. The man they were looking for was already in custody. Arrested for a trespassing offence in which he gave a false name and address, along with a charge for indecency, he was in prison on a 20-month minimum sentence. The case of Jacic's murder was running cold. Still, no one suspected the obese, odorous man with a liking for shocking pretty women with his shrivelled genitals, a result of Klinefelter syndrome, a condition in which a male is born with an extra X chromosome, causing infertility, sexual difficulty and small genitals. His real name was Mark Aaron Rust. From the age of 13, Mark Rust had been following girls, fantasising about having sex with them. This soon escalated. Rust was convicted of multiple sex crimes, including masturbating in public and indecent exposure. The first official charge came in 1983. 13 sex offences followed, and a number of other offences, including trespassing and arson. The courts didn't focus on the sex crimes. They focused on the property and material damage he caused. For this, they handed out good behaviour bonds and didn't record convictions. In this, they failed to protect people. One of Rust's pastimes included exposing himself to schoolgirls at a bus stop in North Adelaide. Rust got a kick out of horrifying women. He hated them. 1991 saw this hatred extended further when his second marriage ended after being accused of sexually assaulting his wife's daughter. Although no charges were laid, he did have to attend the sexual offenders treatment program. He didn't even make it halfway through the first day, claiming the program was stupid. On August 2nd, 2001, and released from prison on parole only 10 days earlier, Rust wasted no time in getting back to his favourite pastime, exposing himself to pretty women. An 18-year-old woman stopped to use an ATM on Goodwood Road, only to be dragged from her car by Rust. He blocked her passage back into her vehicle and masturbated aggressively in front of her. The woman pushed him to the ground, jumped over him and got back into her car. Rust was already back on his feet, attempting to approach her again. She was absolutely terrified and reversed down Goodwood Road at top speed, then drove to her boyfriend's house, who called the police immediately. At around 10:30 p.m. on August 3rd, 2001, and just 40 minutes away from her Modbury apartment, 18-year-old Japanese college student Megumi Suzuki sits at a bus stop listening to a portable CD player. She boards a bus, but doesn't go home. After failing to attend classes for 3 days and no one able to contact her, Megumi is reported as missing, and her parents in Japan are notified. They fly to Adelaide immediately and an investigation begins. It's later discovered that Megumi was seen later that night at a BP service station that was situated in the opposite direction of her home, where she purchased a SIM card for her phone. Police began asking the public for assistance and searching places that Megumi was known to frequent. Someone reported seeing Megumi outside the Akaba Hotel in Fullerton on the 18th of August, and police began to speculate that perhaps she had gotten herself into some trouble and was hiding. Megumi's parents made a television plea for their daughter to come forward.
Megumi? もしこれを見ていたら早く出てきてほしい。
Megumi, if you saw this, please come forward as soon as possible. Father and mother can't sleep every day.
めぐみ、何も心配しなくていいから。
Don't worry about anything. Please come forward as soon as possible. Father and mother will protect you from now on. Please come forward.
But Megumi never made contact, and there were no new sightings. 8 weeks later, her details were posted on a new police website that had just been developed. The unsolved murder of Jakic were posted on the same website, and in an unbelievable twist of fate, Mark Rust's brother, Stephen, would come across that site.
9. Police are seeking your assistance to identify the caller.
I logged on and found the tape and listened to it. And listened to it. And listened to it. And I listened to it about half a dozen times. I closed my eyes and listened to it.
Yeah, I just walked past the old Paynham police station. There seems to be a body.
And I was 90% sure that it was my brother. Perhaps Mark was involved with this crime that seemed rather out of character for Mark. He'd never been violent as far as I knew. So I listened to the tape again. And I remember I walked up the passageway a little bit and closed my eyes so there was some distance from the voice.
I don't know, I can vaguely see him. He's got a flashlight flashing around the place.
Inside or?
In around the place.
And I could see Mark talking to me when I could hear that voice. So I sort of decided then that I had to ring Crime Stoppers. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's there's no damage done. But if I'm right, well, they need to know about it.
While police now had the name of the caller, it wasn't enough. They would also need to prove that the note left on the patrol car was his writing, and a letter was provided by his brother for comparison. It proved conclusive, and police believed they had a strong enough case to arrest him. They didn't have to look far. Mark Ruff's offences had escalated to rape, and he was currently on remand in the Port Augusta prison. On October 22nd, 2001, he was arrested and charged with the murder of Maya Jakic. Her parents in Croatia were given the news. Rust remained silent following his arrest, but his former Port Augusta cellmate did not. The cellmate informed the police that Rust had bragged about raping and murdering Maya, but what he told them next would shock them. Rust had been lurking around Cumberland Park only a day after his attack on the 18-year-old woman at the ATM machine. He was happy with the result Cumberland Park had given him, so he decided to try again. However, Rust was no longer satisfied with the disgusted expressions he governed from pretty women. He wanted sex, and he wanted to take it by force. He spotted Megumi and saw the opportunity. He grabbed her from behind, dragging her away from the main road. Much smaller and lighter than himself, Megumi was easy to shut up. He managed to pull down her pants, however his impotence struck again, and he was unable to get an erection. Infuriated by this, he attempted to strangle Megumi. After failing to do so, Rust found a rock nearby and smashed it over her head. He bludgeoned the small girl, then wrapped Megumi's body in plastic sheets he found nearby, before dumping her in a large rubbish bin behind some local shops. Police moved fast and confiscate Rust's belongings from the Port Augusta prison. They find a CD player, like the one Megumi was using on the night she disappeared. Luckily, Megumi's mother still had the receipts from the purchase of the player, and a match of the serial number confirms it is Megumi's. On October 30th, Rust was charged with the murder of Megumi Suzuki. Her parents once again board a flight from Japan. Once investigators located the industrial bin where Rust had dumped the body, the realisation of the task ahead of them dawned. The suburb of the bin, west of Adelaide, was home to a large rubbish dump belonging to Integrated Waste Management Services. 500 tonnes of rubbish is managed at the site every single day, and 4 months had passed since Megumi's murder. The massive task of finding Megumi's body at the Wingfield dump began on November 26. Megumi's parents sat on the sidelines, watching as tons of rubbish was sifted through. The notorious Adelaide summer heat waves made the search even harder, with the mercury pushing over 35 degrees Celsius for days on end. But the 200 members of the search team were relentless. They were determined to find Megumi, so she could finally be laid to rest. They knew they were getting closer as they began to uncover newspapers and letters that neared the date of Megumi's disappearance. At the same time, and in a twist of fate, a contractor discovered human remains in a drum. They had been burned, and DNA testing would later reveal they belonged to Joanne Lillicrap, a cross-dressing truck driver who was brutally murdered in a case that I covered not too long ago. But finally, on December 7th, 2001, Megumi Suzuki's remains were found. Members of both Maya and Megumi's family read impact statements during the trial, and in April 2004, Justice Margaret Nyland sentenced Mark Aaron Rust to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. To this day, he is still fighting his non-parole period. But it's not only the family of the victims who are left to suffer from such horrific acts of violence.
How could he have done that? Because we all grew up together in the same house. It's emotionally quite devastating to realise that someone so close to you and in your immediate family can commit such a crime. It's really... It's devastating. It's I don't know, I can't really find the words to describe just how bad it makes you feel. It's a dreadful feeling.
Megumi Suzuki was cremated and her family took her ashes back to Japan. However, in Centennial Park on Goodwood Road, only metres away from where her body was dumped in August 2001, lies a memorial plaque in her memory. Maya Jakic is buried near her mother's home in Croatia. Her mother visits the grave every day, no matter the weather, sitting by her daughter for hours on end. Thank you for joining me for this very sad and senseless case. Please hit the like button before you go, and subscribe if you'd like to see more murder, mystery and mayhem. Until next time.